you're anti-trans.
This guy I've actually seen before. I can't remember where. He seemed really annoying. But hey, I don't actually know anything about this guy. Duncan can't die. Let's go with all the turf arguments from a scientist's perspective. Now, I remain ever optimistic that maybe I just haven't heard any of the good pro-trans arguments. But hey, maybe this guy will have it right. Who knows? Let's see. Let's be open-minded. Let's not poison the well, because I keep complaining about others doing it, and I probably do it sometimes. But yeah, debunking every transphobic argument, any percent speedrun. Duncan can't die. Let's go.
All right, let's do this.
Debated Destiny. Yeah, I think I remember him. Listen, I'm not. I'll watch the video. Let's not. Let's not poison the well, like I said.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Twitch live stream / YouTube video, guys.
Hello, Brit. Probably doesn't bode well, to be honest.
If you want to see this stuff live, where we discuss stuff in more detail, you can always do that over at twitch.tv/DuncanCan'tDie. Liking this video, leaving a positive comment on this video. All of that good stuff really helps in this battle against the transphobes in my comment section.
Battle against the transphobes. Listen, appeal to nebulous transphobes, but never defining anyone is always a bad sign to me.
We've been seeing a lot of transphobia recently. There's been a huge resurgence in the transphobic narrative on Fox News and in right-wing media in general.
Are we going to get any examples? I hate transphobia being used in this vague way. I really wish people wouldn't do it.
And there are lots of reasons for this, but what I want to address is all the dumb fuck transphobic arguments that I see all the time in my comment sections or...
Why is his beard ginger? Listen, I used to get like the odd ginger hair in my beard.
Or on Twitter, and I'm just going to break them all down one by one because they're not accurate. The thing about them is, look, if you're a transphobe or you're anti-trans, just say it with your chest, right? We get it. You're scared of different...
You know what this means? This means that he wants people who have opinions such as, I don't know, I don't want trans women to be in women's sports. And he wants you to be like, no, just say you hate trans people. This is hackery, but we remain optimistic.
I'm just going to break them all down one by one because they're not accurate. The thing about them is, look, if you're a transphobe or you're anti-trans, just say it with your chest, right? We get it. You're scared of different. You don't like things that are different.
I mean, this probably describes a few people, but like, really? I don't know about this, man.
You're very against them because they terrify you and you want to...
Like, how many times have I heard this exact fucking speech come out of anyone? Oh, hi, Elena. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're debunking every transphobic argument today. It's a big one.
Lash out and try and blame trans people for the fact that you are a sad, pathetic loser. Because hateful...
Okay, we got the Alec Gunt moment. Nice.
People, you never end up being happy, fulfilled people.
Mate, you just called a bunch of people losers and said that they don't think what they say they think. Who's the hateful one exactly?
People, right? I've never met a bigot who ends up actually turning out to be a happy, fulfilled person. It's always to mask some kind of unhappiness in your life. So just own it.
Pop psychology, nice. Listen, there's always going to be people telling me I hate myself. They're free to show in what way I hate myself. I've yet to be convinced of that. The irony being, I spent a lot of my life actually hating myself. I don't anymore. And now everyone tells me I do. It's great. It's great. It's great.
Just be like, I'm an unhappy, hateful person, and therefore I'm transphobic.
This is projection. See, I can do pop psychology too. Duncan can't die.
Like J.K. Rowling, she owns it, right? Although she does try and say that it's hurting women, the trans agenda.
Let's get an example of J.K. Rowling's transphobia that isn't from the times where it's become a vicious cycle.
So let's talk about this. The first and easiest to crush one is...
Yeah. Here's the thing. He's already starting on a very faulty, flimsy premise because he doesn't actually understand the people he's talking about, which is an extremely common thing in and of itself. So my guess is the whole of this video is going to be extremely flawed from like the ground up. Like the foundations aren't good. You know what I mean?
The people who go, what is woman? What's the definition of woman? That's my favorite one, because here's the thing. These people seem to fail to understand a few things about language. One, words have multiple definitions.
Words have multiple definitions. That doesn't mean a trans woman is a woman, though.
I'm not going to argue that one of the definitions of woman is not an adult female human being. That is absolutely one of the definitions of woman. Another definition of woman, because it's from the word wifman, is a married female. You have to be married to be a
No one uses it that way anymore.
woman by the oldest possible definition of woman.
Why would we use the oldest possible definition instead of the ones that are relevant now? That seems like it would invalidate your argument, if anything, because we've come up with new ways that we use the word woman, even if it doesn't make any sense.
So you saying if you're unmarried, you're not a woman now? Is that your argument? Because we're going back to the oldest.
This guy calls himself a scientist. This isn't science-based arguments. This is full retard arguments is what this is.
So you saying if you're unmarried, you're not a woman now? Is that?
You see what I mean? Like, take some preposterous different version of it and be like, oh, is that what you're saying? Oh, I hate it. I hate it. It's very Alec Gunter. It's very, never mind.
That your argument? Because we're going back to the oldest, least evolved definition? Because current definitions are things like.
It's odd that he's talking about, or ironic, should I say, he's talking about linguistics, because he's just playing word games right now. He's just making up a position for someone and then knocking it down. Like, weak. Polysemous, what does that mean? Social sciences, probably. Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree, but I don't know for sure. So technically, I'm not misinforming anyone.
A person's wife, girlfriend, or female lover. He wondered whether Billy had his woman with him. You've heard this before, okay? You've heard it before. Someone talking about someone's woman. Oh, that's his woman. Yeah, that's another meaning of the word woman. And a really interesting one is a person with the qualities.
Oh, thank you, Baldo. I don't actually think I did very well, but he is such a moron, it barely doesn't matter. It barely matters, should I say.
Traditionally associated with females. And specifically here, they're talking about social qualities. So if you're going to try and get me on a lexiconical argument, if you're going to try and get me on a definition of words, sorry, lexiconical is a word that you probably don't understand, a definition of words argument, transphobes, I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, Serena.
But included in one of the definitions of the word woman is people who are not biologically female. Specifically included, by the way, as an official definition of the word woman. Language evolves. Get used to it, all right?
So language evolves. Okay, so I guess if the word and suddenly takes on a completely different meaning, that's just language evolving. Why do people have to accept language evolving?
Get used to it. Things change.
And the thing is, language evolves. It doesn't evolve like that. It's not like, now this word means something else. Because to many people, it still doesn't mean that. It's a bit like the word literally. Like, people have decided now it means the opposite of itself, as well as what it means. Which is preposterous, for one thing. But it's just like colloquial use. You can change any word to mean anything that way.
Transphobes in the dictionary now. That's you. All right, transphobes? That's the people watching this video.
Yeah, that word is completely fucking meaningless, bro. You don't want to use that to hammer home your point, trust me.
Ready to comment how I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm not. It's a definition of woman. That one's done. Okay, so please do not ever bring up that argument again.
Well, one of the definitions of it is literally male who thinks he's a woman. Okay, amazing.
Now we're going to go with the people who love to argue biology. And I'm going to do a little bit of an appeal to authority here, logical fallacy and all that. I'm a geneticist, okay? I understand the biology of sex a lot better than you do. I'm sorry, random person on the internet who dropped out of high school because you couldn't make it through high school level chemistry.
I did not drop out of high school, but okay.
I know more about biology, and especially biology.
The evolution of language has been put on a bullet train thanks to the internet and the power of memes as described by Dawkins. Yeah, true. Hi, Caleb the Cynic. The other thing I'd add, honestly, is that it seems like different groups are using words very differently, and that's really not a good thing, in my opinion. Like, when you're from the same country and you're using like certain words. Maiden. Yeah. I don't know. I highly doubt this guy is a geneticist. Well, he can show his qualifications. I don't know that he isn't, but hey.
Of sex and the genetics behind it than you do. Okay? That's just a fact. Deal with it. The genetics behind it than you do. Okay? That's just a fact. Deal with it.
Listen, imagine having a drink with this person. Like, oh my God.
We're going to educate you now. I'm actually going to go through this very carefully. All right? Because
I love being educated by people. I wish more people would educate me. I wish more people would think it's their job to lecture and educate me and listen to fuck all of what I have to say. I love it. I love it. Let's go. Let's go, Mr. Whatever your name is.
Because there are a few potholes that you guys love to fall into. So the first and my favorite pothole that people with a basic understanding of biology like to fall into is they say that sex equals gametes, okay? This one is a fun one. So they argue that when you're talking about someone's sex, sorry, I can't get my tablet to work, so I'm writing with my mouse. It's a little bit...
You'd fall asleep. Like, my blood pressure would not allow me that. Fucking hell, I'm finding this guy quite annoying.
Messy, but it's going to be fine. They argue that sex equals gametes. Big gamete equals...
You need to sit down, shut up, and listen to trans allies. No, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Listen, every single trans ally I've come across they're just the bad ones, okay? I just haven't found a smart one, like Duncan can't die yet. Maybe.
Equals female, small gamete equals male. This is true when we are talking about a species as a whole. So when we discover a new species and we see that they are dimorphic and, a two-sex species and that they're dimorphic, sexually dimorphic, we look at them and we say, we're going to class the ones that have big gametes as females and small gametes as males. Now, the reason we do this is because other things that we often accept, all right, things like the females give birth, isn't always true. Seahorses, it's the male with the smaller gametes that carry the children.
This is amazing, but humans are not seahorses, and sometimes animals are put into categorizations that don't potentially make sense because they kind of contradict the rest of the category, but that's just kind of how it is with some things.
And give birth, okay? So it's just a way of defining sex within a species as a whole. We cannot use this to determine sex on an individualistic level because there are individuals who don't fall into the binary, okay? So on a species-wide level, we talk about dimorphic. But on an individual level, it's a lot more than dimorphic. It's a lot more complicated than just you're a boy or you're a girl, which is what people who like to conflate sex and gender say, okay? Sex and gender are separate.
God, this would be so much like, just stop posturing and say the point. Like, get onto it. What makes someone not part of the binary? Like, why do we have to posture for like half a minute? Because we made the world's tiniest point.
And even within sex, there's more than two. There are lots of different sexual archetypes that people can fit into. And the way I can show that to you, the best way I can show that to you, in fact...
Oh, seahorses have the small gamete. Oof, oof.
...is to talk about how we class sex in an individual. There are actually multiple ways we class sex. The one you...
Genetic, what was the other one? In terms of your gonads, and then the other one that means like all the different things. But I mean, there's different importances, right? It's not just every single sex feature is the same value in terms of like someone's sex, right?
You will have learned before you dropped out of high school is XX is girl or female and XY is male, okay? This is what we call karyotype. So XX is one karyotype because it's literally...
That's why they say the male seahorse carry the baby, because they have the sperm and the female deposits her egg. Okay, gotcha.
Just the chromosomes, and XY is another karyotype.
If you've been wearing glasses more than 5 years, stop scrolling. We're looking for people in the UK.
Oh, what's the martial arts thing?
However, you can have XX males and XY females. So you can have someone who is karyotypically female, XX, but genotypically, phenotypically, so genotypically is the genes that are expressed. Phenotypically is what they look like when they're born. They look like...
Yeah, phenotype. I forgot the word.
Like a male, right? Genotypically and phenotypically male, XX, okay? Because there are lots of different levels. How does this work? Well, basically, sex is determined by a chain of proteins and a chain of genes, right, that produce proteins and all of that, that it all comes down to a gene called SOX9, okay? If SOX9 is active, and it's a self-activating gene, once it happens, it goes in a sort of self-expressing pathway, you'll get a boy. It will develop into a phenotypic male. And so on the Y gene, okay, there's a gene called SRY1, all right? And what SRY does is it blocks the expression of beta-catenin. Sorry, I always say canatine. But beta-catenin, okay? And what beta-catenin does is blocks the expression of SOX9. So if you have SRY, you don't produce beta-catenin. If you don't produce beta-catenin, you do produce SOX9 and you get a boy. So how do we get an XX person who is a boy? Well, what happens if your beta-catenin gene, the gene that produces this, is broken?
He had a debate with Destiny about the R word. Or was he trying to tell someone not to use the R word?
You can be XX, but because you never produce beta-catenin, SOX9 activates, and you get an XX male. Equally, if you are XY, but your SRY gene is broken, beta-catenin does activate, and you get an XY.
Yeah, because my understanding of like DSDs very, very broadly and basically is that generally a person with one is still a male or female and has like a dominant gene, a dominant gonad rather, sorry.
Donating to the Mary Get YouTube Premium Fund.
Oh, thank you, confirmation bias. Thank you so much. What was I doing? Sorry, I've got a load of notes on like... Yeah, Swire syndrome, SRI gene responsible for male development doesn't activate. So, yeah, fair enough.
SRY negative, this doesn't happen. Beta-catenin kicks in, and SOX9 doesn't kick in, and you get a female. So what I'm trying to tell you is sex, not just gender, sex is super complicated. It's super, super complicated.
That hasn't really like expressed as much. We've expressed that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. And I already know that because I have like a whole list of all these DSDs and stuff, which I'm looking at right now. I don't know. Like, with this man's logic, shouldn't we just eliminate sexual categories altogether at this point? Fuck. I mean, half these people probably think that genuinely. I can't remember if this guy's a massive leftoid or not, but usually there's a pattern of beliefs, you know what I mean?
It's a lot of complementary systems working together.
Do I still have the ability to produce spermatozoa? No, I haven't since 2017. I'm post-op.
And you can get a lot of different combinations. Hormonal sex is another way we can look at sex. What hormones do you produce? What sex hormones does that...
Well, what sex hormones you produce? That kind of automatically invalidates trans people because they don't produce the hormones, they take them.
That individual have in their body, in what concentrations, is a really good way to measure sex. And that level of sex, hormonal sex, we can change with hormonal treatment.
The thing is, you change your hormonal sex, but if you still have a gonad that doesn't match your hormonal sex, don't you go by like the gonad? Aren't there like, isn't there some kind of descending order of like importance? You know what I mean?
Okay. And you can argue that hormonal treatment's bad, blah, 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 but you right-wingers love it because you worship Joe Rogan. Guess who is taking testosterone every day of his life? Joe Rogan is on.
I do not care about fucking Joe Rogan. Like, this video is 22 minutes long. He's saying that it's a pretty complicated thing, but like he's spending half the time just grandstanding about nothing. Who the fuck cares about Joe Rogan viewers? We have scientific reasons for why we should ignore the science, yes.
Hormonal replacement therapy, just like any trans person, okay?
Yeah, they're not producing it then. You said, oh, fuck's sake. I know I'm being like pedantic, but this guy's calling himself a scientist. He's like the most smug motherfucker I've dealt with in like at least a few hours. Like, come on.
He is taking testosterone, just like any female to male trans person would take testosterone. Are you against that? I don't see you guys kicking off.
What is this equivalence? Like a male taking additional testosterone versus a woman taking testosterone? I mean, half of these people aren't even against that. Plenty of people that you're calling transphobes would say, I don't really mind that some, let's call them trans men, take testosterone. They're adults and it's their right, you know what I mean?
Against Joe Rogan for fighting against his biology, okay? You only seem to have an issue with it.
Here we go. Doesn't know any of the people he's talking about. What does Joe Rogan have to do with what defines a wife? Fuck knows. I think it just gives him an erection to shit on certain kinds of people. What kind of science is he? He said he was a geneticist. He's very bad at explaining any of the science around sex. Yeah. I think I explained like Swire better than him. And I have notes on them. I just read through a bunch of stuff. They call it doping in sports. Like, yeah, of course. Yeah.
When it's somebody that you don't understand or you don't like, who isn't on your side, who isn't echoing your bigotry. Okay? So this is why on a biological...
Okay, just quickly, we've got shitting on religion. Hogwarts legacy question. Needs to be boycotted. Jesus Christ. I have a feeling this is a massive case of constellation of beliefs. So I'm going to guess anti-capitalist, some kind of gender anarchist, fucking hell, whatever else you want. Maybe he's poly as well. Elon Musk video. Wow, I've never seen anyone shit on Elon Musk before. You're so fucking brave. Why a right wing is mad today? Yeah, definitely a fucking leftoid. I'm sure there's plenty of why conspiracy theories are dangerous. Do you not push any? Are you sure? Doesn't like NFTs. I mean, I'm not saying I do either. Elon bought Twitter, lol. I don't like Trump. This is the most... Oh, Andrew Tate, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh. This is the most obvious case of... Obvious fucking case of, like, constellations of belief. So obvious. I'm surprised I'm not seeing more, like, open, like, anti-capitalist shit. But what I found is people got sick of the bread tube shit because no one really cares about fucking anti-capitalism anymore. And nowadays, it's just like they have to slip it into like other videos. Like it's like Trojan horse content where you think you're watching something about a TV show and then it's someone like complaining about capitalism instead. And it's just like, oh, just shut the fuck up. I literally don't care. Someone is in Tara's live on TikTok pretending to be you. Oof. Sorry to hear that. Wait, did she ever get back to you then?
Logical level. Transphobes don't make sense. You argue sex equals gender, which it doesn't. Gender is a social construct. Sex is a...
So if gender is a social construct, how come gender is also believed to be innate? Is this a case of this video is a bit older? It's like 2.5 years? Like, I guess the science has moved on very quickly if that's the case. But we're always saying things about our gender at birth as well as our sex at birth. And how we have our gender identity, which according to Jammy Dodger is what you know you really are on the inside, which is a preposterous way to define anything, by the way.
A biological fact. And sex as a biological fact isn't even binary on an individualistic level. You're incorrect.
Has he shown that at all? Like, how so? I'm baffled. I have not heard him show that at all. There is new science now. Yeah, there probably is. Perfect example of slipping in the communism is in Praise of Shadows, like the ultimate soy boy. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't actually watched any of his shit. I just know that one video that everyone made fun of because it was ridiculous. I'd rather just be a bigot than listen to morons like this. Same. This like smugness that you get with these kind of leftist types that think that they get to just patronize the fuck out of everyone. It's like unbearable to me. And it makes me very irritable.
I'm sorry. It is a very complex system and you don't understand it. And that's fine. You don't have to understand it. But what you don't get to do is argue, well, biology says. No, it doesn't.
How How do you get to say what biology says when you gave almost no actual definition? And you spent half the time with this open, spurging about Joe Rogan taking testosterone. He's a fucking cis man. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? If a man takes more testosterone, he doesn't come back round and become a woman again. He's just still a man with even more testosterone in him. I don't know.
Biology doesn't say it. Scientific consensus is a collection of what scientists believe based on thousands of studies over the past hundreds of years of science. And where we have arrived with scientific consensus is, one, sex is not binary on an individualistic level.
He wasn't joking. This is a massive appeal to authority.
This is a fact. Intersex people exist. You can always make the argument,
What's an intersex person?
which transphobes love to make, is, oh, well, they're anomalies. Let me ask you this. Are trans people the norm? No, they are also anomalies. But anomaly doesn't mean bad, okay? Something being
No one's saying that.
outside of the normal range, doesn't mean it's bad. I don't see
To be fair, like, is that really why people aren't getting adequate cancer treatment? Like, I don't know if that's true or not.
you right-wingers saying all autistic people are bad. Being autistic is
All autistic people are bad. What? This person, like, does he think that every single right-winger has had a massive head injury? Like, I'm baffled. Do you think every right-winger is no more than, like, 5 years old? Who talks like that?
is an anomaly. It's just not bad. It's just a different way of being. It's somebody who is.
And besides that, something can be an anomaly. That's fine. But, like, let's say you take someone who genuinely, sorry, I get those two mixed up all the time, genuinely doesn't fit, like, the binary. Like, first, don't you kind of look at the actual mechanics behind what's happening and look at other things? You know, we go by, like, gametes, I think, more than other stuff, but I don't fucking know. What was I saying? I forgot.
Anomaly.
And the other thing is, like, yeah, so someone's an anomaly and they're an intersex person. Isn't intersex kind of post-fact theory? A bit like, what was it? Fuck, my brain is, like, not good today. Listen, people should stop fucking winding me up before stream.
Side of the normal range, doesn't mean it's bad. I don't see you right-wingers saying all autistic people are bad.
Yeah, it's like post-fact, like, theory. It's like saying God made the earth. The earth is here, and that's how we're conceiving of it. There's not been any justification of this. He hasn't shown in what way intersex people exist. Like, he used Swire syndrome as an example. Is that intersex? I was under the impression it wasn't. Because intersex really is just any of the ones that it's ambiguous because they have a bit of both gametes, even though one of them will still be dominant.
Being autistic is an anomaly. It's just not bad. It's just a different way of being. It's somebody who is.
Yeah, Heartless, nobody says anomalies are automatically bad. This person just doesn't know the people that make any of these arguments. And he has some kind of investment, you know, through the constellation of beliefs or whatever fucking cult he's in. He's got some kind of investment in misrepresenting these people as much as possible so that he can say that he, as scientist, has debunked every transphobic argument, which is insane. Of course you aren't. Of course you haven't. You've done 2 arguments. 2 in, like, half the runtime because you won't shut the fuck up with your smug fucking jokes. You know what I mean?
Different. And
jeez, I wonder why BreadTube fucking died. I wonder why no one likes this shit.
another way to drive this point home. You either believe that there's a male brain and a female brain, and men and women are fundamentally different, in which case you have to agree that there is a possibility that somebody develops with a male body but a female brain, in which case you.
Hold on, I thought that had been debunked. I thought that was transmedicalism. Why are you coming out with this? This is the same, excuse me, this is the second fucking shitty trans ally that I've heard in not a very long space of time, using, like, transmed arguments. Like, the like, sexual dimorphism of brains is very contested, isn't it?
You are agreeing that trans people exist. They have the female brain in the male body due to an...
That is not what trans means. Trans means you have gender dysphoria and you act upon it to transition.
Anomaly, okay? And if you believe that male brains and female brains are basically the same, then you have to also agree that gender identity is just a social construct. Because if we're all basic...
How can gender identity be innate and also a social construct? And if gender identity is just a social construct, that means it literally is just made up.
The same, then how come men and women identify differently, which they do?
Because they're different. Oh God, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Why would two different groups of people identify differently when there's a bunch of differences between them? I don't know, probably because they're different. It's painful, it's painful, it's painful.
So, either way you cut it, the transphobic argument doesn't really play out on a sociological level or on a biological level. It just doesn't.
He hasn't shown that. Maybe I've missed something, but I have not heard that at all. He cannot come to that conclusion based on what he's shown.
Doesn't work. All right? This is why I have an issue with these people in my comment section.
If that's the case, then Dylan Mulvaney is still a man because he clearly doesn't think like women do. I mean, the other alternative is Dylan Mulvaney is a man because he was born with fucking XY chromosomes and testicles and all that.
Going, well, you don't understand biology. No, you don't understand biology. I studied it for many years, okay, in great detail.
Well, you've not explained it very well here, and you think that female and male brains exist, which is an extremely contested thing to say.
Is, in fact, my wheelhouse. I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, we'll just have to get a brain scan to determine, yeah. And that does not happen. It hasn't happened. It won't happen. The trans community is actually very, it's very resistant to that kind of thing because they want people to be able to choose to be trans, even though they're saying it's innate. What we actually get is like two different things going on at once. Not sure dildo was born with testicles. Hey, I didn't say anything about them ever dropping. Isn't his argument's endpoint that they don't exist? How's that helping people's rights? Fuck knows. If that's the case, if he's like a gender abolitionist or something, then I'm sure he'll let us know, because these people love talking about their gender abolition as if anyone gives a fuck. Another thing that is just don't fucking go down this route.
And I hope that I've managed to educate you guys at least this much, so that when you're transphobic in the future, you don't make these dumb fuck arguments.
Listen, I beg of you, not just this guy, so many people, stop thinking that you have anything to educate people on. You probably fucking don't.
That make you look like a brain-dead moron. If you're going to be a transphobe, at least be a slightly educated transphobe. Just say you don't like it, okay? Just say you don't like it. Just say that you're scared of trans people or you don't like trans people, all right? It's fine.
But what if they're not scared of trans people? What would it prove if we could pick this up in a brain scan? I don't fucking know. That female and male brains exist and one can form in the other's body, I guess.
You can say that. It makes you a horrible human being, but you have the freedom of speech to say so, all right? I'm not trying to fight against your freedom of speech. Now, the other level...
Yeah, but you are telling people what to say and suggesting that people's arguments, however diverse, should be boiled down to just, I'm scared of trans people, which nobody is. Actually, no, people probably are, but, you know, not for the reasons that he's... Excuse me, not for the reasons he's thinking. Fucking hell.
People love to go to is the sociological history of trans people. Well, trans people are a modern leftist phenomena.
No, they're going to cancel you forever.
We don't have trans people in history, so why are trans people here now? Well, other than the fact that there was a...
We don't have the concept of trans really in history. What we're doing is applying a belief that we have now to old times, which is an extremely risky thing to do. Like, there was gender nonconformity throughout history. You could probably prove that fairly easily. But this is insane. This is very much looking at a world that already exists and then putting your current theory onto it when it has existed a long time before you have.
Trans Roman emperor. Emperor I'm going to kill this pronunciation. Elagabalus was an emperor of Rome who had people refer to them as lady, not lord, wore female... clothing and wigs and offered an immeasurable
Wait, he just called this person them, but they wanted to be referred as lady? Haven't you just misgendered that person? Ouch.
fortune to any physician who could somehow give them female genitalia.
Well, that sounds like a bit of a delusion they've got going on, right?
That sounds to me like a trans person, all right?
Yes, but it's a modern theory that you're applying to the past.
That to me, somebody who's like, hey, no, you are going to use the pronoun I want you to, which
No. What is this accent? Where's he from? It reminds me a bit of like Philosophy Tube at some points.
is lady, okay? I'm going to dress and live as a woman. And any physician who can give me female genitalia, I will give an empire to. That to me.
Well, he might have experienced gender dysphoria, sure. Are we arguing that it was never a thing? Like, I don't know. But calling them trans by today's standards is extremely risky. It's not something I'd do.
That's a trans emperor of Rome, okay? I'm just saying. And it's not just Romans, okay? Ancient Egypt had gods that changed genders, and even humans in their mythology who changed genders. Bata was a human in Egyptian mythology who cut off his penis and became a woman. Mut and Sekhmet.
Cutting your penis off doesn't make you a woman. What?
Changed genders. Bata was a human in Egyptian mythology who cut off his penis and became a woman. Mut and Sekhmet and Anat were all
That makes it sound like if you lose your penis in an accident, you're a woman now, and that's not the case.
gods that were portrayed as both Mut and Sekhmet, for example, being female goddesses. They were often represented with large erect penises. Almost like trans people were worshipped. East Africa, the place where everyone's like, oh, they don't.
Okay, here's another problem. The white Western theory we are now putting on to other cultures.
Have trans people in Africa. Well, they don't now because of, Christianity. We'll get there. They had the Mashoga in Swahili tribes, which were males who took on feminine names, would marry men and live like women. And then
What does it even mean to live like women?
Basha, who were the opposite. They were women or females who would take on.
We're going to go back that he's not going to address the massive explosion of trans in young people we don't see in history. He'll just debunk this weaker version of this point. Yep, I would imagine so. These people just gloss over anything that actually matters and use their appeal to authorities and misrepresent the fuck out of people's arguments because they can just use the vague, appeals to transphobes. Like, oh, transphobes this, transphobes that. They're not actually talking about anyone. So they're not actually technically misrepresenting anyone. But the thing is, people aren't really making these arguments. But he wants them to make the arguments that they just hate trans people. Because I guess that's easier for his tiny fucking brain to comprehend. AKA he's a fucking liar.
Male names, would marry women and would live as men. In Kenya, we had the Mugawe, who were male to female trans priests.
Is this guy serious? I think he might be, unfortunately. This is just trans allyship. Not even once. Not even once. If you're not trans and you're watching me, you're not my ally.
We had various Bantu people who were a tradition of being boy wives, where they would live as women, marry men, all of that. Native Americans almost always had third.
Boy wives. Well, that sounds like something that maybe the Christians were right not to be keen on. You know what I mean? The issue isn't that trans people exist. True. It's the ethics of medical treatments in children and where trans people belong in society. Yeah, I agree.
Gender roles in their history. We've got the Dine in the Navajo tribe, for example, or Two-Spirit people who've existed in basically every example of Native American culture. We've got one of the first ever European accounts of a Native American tribe by the missionary Joseph Francois Lafitau, who spent 6 years with the Iroquois people and observed women, he put women in quotations, with manly courage, who prided themselves upon the profession of warrior and seemed to become men alone. And he also...
But you don't. Paid by Putler. I was in Putin. I don't know. I've watched Bogosian a couple of times. I quite liked it.
described men cowardly enough to become and live as women, including marrying or becoming partners with.
See, that just sounds like they do the stuff that men do, but doing stuff that men do doesn't make you women. That was the whole, make you men, sorry. That was the whole point of one of the waves of feminism was women can do stuff too. Women can do stuff and they're still women and they can do those things. I don't fucking know.
People of the same sex by this, Christian missionary, which again, we'll get to the Christianity aspect of it. China and Japan as far back as the Edo.
We're not, when he gets to the Christianity part, I'm just gonna peace out. I don't need another fucking smug as fuck leftoid go on about fucking religion. I have had enough of that for a lifetime. Do you know how many of these trans allies, they're like atheist channels? So it's like they talk about trans stuff and then atheism. And they talk about atheism in the exact opposite way that they talk about gender identity or whatever. I.e., they seem to have super religious like beliefs when it comes to gender. But then when you talk about religion, they have the opposite beliefs. It's wild. It's bizarre.
Period. Cambodia, Thailand, India all have rich histories of trans people in their culture, not only existing, but being viewed as holy. A really good example of this is the Hijras in India, who are male to female trans.
None of this is proving anything, by the way. Are they trans? Like, trans today is like a Western concept. How are you going to apply a Western concept to old times India?
Almost priestesses who are sought out even to this day for religious ceremonies, despite the fact that Christian British imperialists tried to kill off the entire culture of Hijras. They failed because it's so intrinsic in Indian culture. One of the most important Hindu gods, a fusion of Shiva and Shakti, is, oh God, I'm going to kill this one too. Ardhana Ishvara is an androgynous or transgender deity who switches gender. All right? And again, European culture, people are like, oh, well, you know, I'm a white supremacist, so I don't care about the Indian people and the Chinese people and the Japanese people. Well, okay, European cultures, let's talk about that. Ancient Greece and Rome had galley priests who were male to female priests who lived as women and often castrated themselves.
Yeah, you know what those kind of people call themselves? Skeptics. Do you know what it means? Being actually skeptic about religion and then being extremely unskeptical about gender.
And then wore female clothing and used female pronouns and lived as women. Saturnalia is one of the most famous Roman holidays, and it's all about cross-dressing, all right? Like, even the Norse people, the Vikings, the white supremacists seem to really like appropriating their culture. They had trans people too. Odin and Loki were often...
Oh, YNBAW. Just be careful with the language. I don't want to get, like, banned or something.
Assuming the forms of females. I mean, Loki gave birth, and Loki is one of the most important Norse gods. We've got Viking graves that have been dug up that have had female skeletons, which were buried as men, with male burial rites and mass...
I mean, I guess we have to go back to history to try and fucking make this shit make sense. Never had a leftoid fucking do the whole, well, in the 1800s, this. And I'm like, just kill me. Just kill me. Just kill me rather than allowing me any further part of this conversation. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I just worry about getting like banned or something. That's all.
Masculine burial goods, okay? Balkan sworn virgins, known as the Stana Serovic, are people who were signed female at birth but lived their whole lives as men. They just live as men, all right? These are real people who existed throughout history who were, in fact, trans. Being trans...
A lot of the genetic studies he cites has its origins in genetic research projects, ironically one of the largest carried out by the Catholic Church. Fair enough.
...is not new. What is new is in Western post-Christian culture. Trans people feeling like they can be openly trans. Because what the Christian people did, all right?
Sam, if I don't say your name, just assume I'm not talking to you so that you're not causing confusion. Thank you.
Missionaries and Christian theocrats, they don't like any of this stuff because it was different, and different was difficult to control. This is why homosexuality was outlawed, all right? Think about it. Some of the most amazing people in history have died because they were homosexual, all right? My favorite one to go to is Alan Turing, the guy who won World War II, beat the
IDGAF means I don't give a fuck.
Nazis, all right? Without him, we probably would have lost World War II and invented the computer that you are now watching this on because smartphones are computers, all right? Turing invented computers. Without him, we probably wouldn't have computers. You are watching this on something...
Given warrior burial rights, not male burial rights. Hey, maybe. And I mean, hey, he can't use his appeal to authority anymore because he's not a historian. Whether he's a geneticist, you know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, we hear all kinds of cooked as fuck things coming out of like therapists' mouths. Like, we might as well extend it to scientists and shit because plenty of them are probably crazy too.
That was invented by a gay...
Oh, sorry, crazy or captured, I'm not sure which. Both, maybe.
A dude who eventually committed suicide because he was chemically castrated by the government or being gay. He never even got to finish developing computers. We would be...
Okay, he's just soying out as fuck. This has got nothing to do with transphobic arguments. This video was terrible. Duncan can't die. There we go. Amazing. Did it. I did it. I watched the video, most of it.